NATO announced a major member talk set for this Friday, all about the standoff in Ukraine. The 30 foreign ministers are expected to discuss next steps in a virtual conference ahead of an impending talk between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin, and between senior U.S. and Russian officials in Geneva, scheduled for January 9th. So here to discuss all of that, former Pentagon official Mike Maloof. So Mike, Putin and Biden have already spoken twice before the new year. The U.S. has indicated it would sanction Moscow if military action were taken against Ukraine. Is that a prelude to what the tone of this NATO meeting will be?
Well, I think it will be, and this is an unfortunate development. I mean, when you have 30 ministers up against one, the Russians could say, well, those are even odds, but the reality is you've got Stoltenberg, who is the head of NATO at this point, dictating the terms already without actually having a discussion. And I think that this is, and this could cause severe repercussions, I think, down the line. And if NATO doesn't budge and come to some accommodation with the concerns of Moscow, I think you're going to see two developments occurring here in this coming year. Number one, you will see a closer coming together of Russia and China in terms of a military alliance, where they invoke their own type of Article 5, where an attack on one is an attack on both. And number two, you're going to see, and I think you will see Moscow and China aiming for a more independent financial world order and to get out from under the Western influence. And I think that these are two weapons, I think, that Moscow and China both could use against the West.
Yeah.
And I think economically and politically, it could be quite effective.
Now, speaking of weapons, Russia test launched some hypersonic missiles last month. What message is that intended to send, and to whom, Mike?
Well, it's certainly sending to the West, because you have the United States, which is a superpower extended all over the world. And when a country such as Russia has limited resources and has not done anything beyond its own borders except bringing troops closer to the border, what alternatives does Moscow have? As Putin said, we have nowhere else to go.
Yeah. And
as a consequence, you're going to see an escalation of hypersonics, which, if they're nuclear tipped, that just raises the whole arms race. And I think if we still had in effect the intermediate range ballistic missile treaty, which the United States initiated dropping out of, I think that it would bring on a little safer accommodation for the world and certainly for the West. But that's not where we are right now. Yeah. And any spark could absolutely trigger everything in a cascading effect that I'm really worried about.
Now, Mike, let me ask you this. Why does Ukraine seemingly want to be closer with the West rather than its own border neighbor, Russia? I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to be friends with them? I mean, imagine if the U.S. was in a standoff against Canada. I mean, that would make no sense.
Well, under the Yanukovych government, which was overthrown by the West, they were gearing more toward the Eurasia economic group as opposed to EU. In fact, what sparked the coup in Ukraine was an announcement that Ukraine would not join the EU, and I think that you have the country itself is split. Yeah. There's a western portion which is oriented more toward the West, and the eastern portion, which is oriented more toward Russia. And you have a lot of Russian ethnicities who reside in the eastern portion, and they don't want any part of the EU. So yeah. This is what's prompting this standoff. And you have the EU minister coming in now, trying to throw his weight around. And frankly, I don't think he would be contributing all that much to a positive dialogue, and it might actually set the tone for more confrontation. given his past history, particularly on Syria and the encouragement of sanctions against Moscow.
Yeah, and real quickly, on Joseph Borrell going into Kiev last night, how much of the conversation there do you think is going to talk about Nord Stream 2?
Well, I think that will be used as leverage. But again, Germany may not go along with it. The current chancellor tends to be more accommodating toward Moscow. So even in German political sphere, there is a split, even with his own cabinet of his foreign minister and his defense minister. So I think that that's going to offer something intriguing. And Nord Stream is meant to aid Germany primarily. So Borrell may be creating more problems than we really than is called for at this point.
Yeah, let's hope there are not more problems along that border region. Mike Maloof, always appreciate your insight. Thank you.